It's been the most successful criminal justice legislation that California has ever seen.
California's former Secretary of State and five-term Assemblyman Bill Jones thinks California's three strikes law is responsible for the statewide drop in crime, but not everyone agrees with his assessment.
I'm personally not a supporter of three strikes types of laws.
Because I'm a pretty strong law and order guy, but I don't want a bunch of grandpas in jail for stealing bread.
Is it working or not? After being enforced on the books for more than a decade, we'll talk to the man who authored California's three strikes law and find out. Next on Full Disclosure.
As during this 10-year period documented, the reduction in crime has been dramatic, and we all remember back prior to '94, at least many of us remember back, how so many different approaches had been tried, indeterminate sentencing, all sorts of ideas as to how we were going to control the crime rate. We were talking about building more prisons, remember? All that whole discussion. Department of Corrections said in the committee that I carried the bill, the Senate Appropriations Committee, that, in fact, we would have upwards of 250,000 prisoners in state prison by the turn of the century. And as it turned out, we have about 175,000 now here in 2006. So there was dramatic reduction over the expectations of even the Department of Corrections of incarceration at this point in time. So it's worked from every different conceivable point of view. It's been a success.
I'm personally not a supporter of three strikes types of laws. District Attorney Steve Cooley here has attempted to modify the California three strikes system, which I think unfortunately is not a good one, and tried to make it a fairer system. But I have a lot of problems with three strikes. We've all seen and heard too many horror stories where people who don't need to go to jail for the rest of their lives are going at a significant cost to the rest of society.
Well, he is wrong, in my opinion, with all due respect. The fact of the matter is, I remember when then District Attorney Gil Garcetti came to Sacramento and opposed the three strikes measure in committee, did not support it when we were trying to pass it in Sacramento for many of the alleged same reasons. Well, it's not going to work, it won't be effective. And then when it actually took effect, after 2 or 3 years of operation, and we saw the crime rate in Los Angeles drop dramatically, he changed his mind, as did most of the district attorneys in the state.
We asked Bill Jones what has made the three strikes law so effective.
It did away with the plea bargaining process, which was really turned the whole prison system and the judiciary into a revolving door, where we caught the same people, put them in jail for a short time, and then let them back out. So it was deterrence that worked. I want to go back to what I said a minute ago about the Department of Corrections. Corrections, when I asked them the question a decade ago, said they'd never seen deterrence work before. And what three strikes has done is actually add deterrence to the law that was definitive, so people actually knew what the consequences were. And I want to stress, with all due respect to my good friends down in Southern California in law enforcement, the district attorney, the judge can strike a prior, thereby not triggering the third 25-year life strike. So there's flexibility in the law. It sends deterrence message to the 6% of the criminals, which back in '94 were committing 60 to 70% of the crime. So when something's working that well, I think you need to not only leave it alone, but you need to learn from it.
The law requires the court to sentence anybody with 2 prior violent or serious felonies who are convicted of any third felony to a 25 to life sentence. We wanted Mr. Jones to explain the details of the three strikes law and the consequences and ramifications of the law.
If you go and look in the code today, and you list it out on a piece of paper, all the serious or violent crimes, and they're all listed in the statute, I would defy any of your viewers to go to that list and go down the list and see if any of those crimes do not belong there. So the question really then is, because people say, well, any felony, serious or violent felony, that's really the question on the third strike. But when people really look at the list of crimes, which means there's a victim behind every one of those crimes that may be committed, most people would look at that list and not take anything off. In other words, they would say those all belong. Those are serious or violent crimes. So I guess my answer to the question is, again, the goal of 3 strikes is to not create another victim.
Los Angeles County District Attorney Steve Cooley has been doing an end run around the 3 strikes law by not charging potential third strikers with a third felony. Here's what he had to say in an earlier interview.
If the new offense is not serious or not violent, we generally will not seek 25 to life. We'll seek some other sentence less than that.
And I would even argue that your district attorney, in the manner in which he's handling it in Los Angeles, is wrong. That the crime rate would be lower in L.A. today if he would treat the 3 strikes law in the manner that it was intended to be handled, rather than the way he's modified the handling through the administrative process. The people of L.A. decide that, even though I disagree with the way the district attorney in L.A. is handling it, I think he's wrong. But if the people of Los Angeles County think that he's right, they get a chance to vote for that when he stands before the public. 3 strikes has worked because deterrence does work if the message is clear. And if either the law enforcement community or the district attorney or you or I or anyone else gets in the way of the message that 3 strikes is delivering to that repeat offender, all they're going to do is put more people at risk.
If you'd like to see this entire interview, you can purchase this program by clicking on the Buy Our Program link on the top of this page.